Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mini Books Podcast with your host, Gloria and Rogan. And today we are excited to dive into Special Book with You. We picked this one because it has really important lessons to share, and we can't wait to talk about them. So let's get started.
Ever feel like your to-do list is some kind of monster? Lurking, growing, just waiting to gobble you whole.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Well, good news, fellow listeners. Today's deep dive is all about taming those tasks, GTD style.
Getting things done, music to my ears. And before you think, ugh, not another productivity system, trust me.
Yeah.
David Allen's approach, it's different. It's less about, rigid rules and more about, well, I guess you could say it's about working with your brain, not against it.
See, that I can get behind. And speaking of brains,
Okay.
mine nearly short-circuited when I read this line in the excerpts you sent over something about an amorphous blob of undoability.
Oh, yeah.
It was how some manager described her to-do list, and I swear it's the most relatable thing ever.
Right. It just nails that feeling of being totally overwhelmed, doesn't it? And Allen's point is, it's this undefined stuff. It's not even the tasks themselves. It's the
wetness of it all.
Exactly. That's what really stresses us out.
Okay, so help us break down this stuff. We're talking like dirty dishes piled up or...
Well, kinda. But in this context, it's anything grabbing your attention that you haven't clearly defined, right? Like you haven't figured out that next action for or made a solid reminder about it.
It's like the mental clutter that just kind of hangs around taunting you.
Exactly. It's like that. And this is where Allen's concept of next actions, this is where it changes the game. Instead of some vague write blog post on your list.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. You define the very next physical step. Like open laptop, draft outline for blog post about, well, about getting unstuffed.
Talk about meta. But I get it. Instead of this big scary task, it's, okay, I can open a doc, jot down some bullet points. Feels doable.
That's the magic, see? Allen's got tons of examples in the book calling that contact you've been avoiding, sketching ideas before a meeting, even just like searching flights for that trip you keep putting off.
Funny how nailing down that first step can be the difference, huh? It's like, we all know the whole journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single. Well, you know the rest. But we forget to define the dang step.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of steps, though, Allen outlines 5 stages for, like, workflow mastery.
Hit me with them.
Okay, so we've got capture, process, organize, review, and do.
Nice.
And while we'll unpack these throughout the deep dive, let's at least touch on capture, yeah? Because that feels like the foundation, the starting line.
It really is, yeah.
And he's big on getting everything out of your head, on a paper, into a system, whatever works, but get it out.
Externalize it.
Yes. It's like when you finally unpack after a trip, even if things aren't totally put away, that act of getting it out of the suitcase.
Yeah.
Relief.
Total relief. And that's the feeling Allen's after that sense of control, He even says it directly. You can only feel good about what you're not doing when you know what you're not doing.
Whoa. Okay, that's alarmingly true when you think about it.
Right. Otherwise, it's just this, like, low-grade guilt buzzing in the background.
Ugh, the worst roommate.
The worst. And that actually leads us to this bigger idea of, like, stress-free productivity, which I think is the holy grail, isn't it?
100%. It's not about becoming some robot cranking through tasks.
Exactly.
But if we could manage things well enough to actually, enjoy life in the meantime.
Now you're speaking my language. And this is where Allen's 4 criteria for actually choosing what to do. That's where it clicked for me. So we've got context, time available, energy available.
Okay, in keeping it realistic.
Yeah, and priority. Because it's not just what has to get done, it's being honest about when and how, realistically.
Man, that energy available part, I used to be terrible at that.
Oh.
I'd schedule stuff needing, like, peak brain power for the end of the day when I was fried.
Oh, classic mistake. We've all been there.
But by actually factoring in our energy levels alongside the rest, we make, like, smarter choices, sustainable choices.
Exactly. We go from just mindlessly plowing through a list to being more, intentional, strategic with our time. And
that reminds me, another gem from Allen, the 2-minute rule. If it takes less than 2 minutes,
just do it.
DOIT. Seriously, mind blown. It's like those tiny little tasks, the ones we keep putting off. They drain more energy just by hanging around.
It's true. Each one is like this little decision you're postponing, and they add up, mental clutter.
Oh, totally. Clutter tax, I'm calling it.
I like it. But yeah, when we just tackle those 2-minute things right away, boom, mental bandwidth freed up.
All right, I'm sold.
Yeah.
2-minute rule, I'm your guy. But okay, say we've conquered those quick wins. What about the big honkin' projects, the ones that feel like they need their own zip code?
Ah, now you're talking. That's where natural planning comes in. And don't worry, it's not about forcing ourselves to follow some rigid.
Some soul-crushing system from the productivity gods.
Exactly. It's actually about tapping into the way our brains are already wired to solve problems,
Yeah.
naturally.
So working with our tendencies, not against them. Okay, now I'm really interested because, let's be honest, most of us, we've all fallen victim to what Alan calls unnatural planning.
Right. Sorry to interrupt you guys. If you're enjoying this podcast, then don't forget to check out our official YouTube channel, Mini Books Podcast, and subscribe for more great podcasts like this one. Oh, tell you haven't.
That last-minute scramble, feeling frazzled, wondering why you even tried to plan in the first place.
The worst. It's that classic, jump into action before thinking clearly trap.
It's a classic for a reason,
Yeah.
sadly. But, okay, so if that's the wrong way,
Yeah.
how do we unlock this whole natural planning superpower? Does he, give us a formula?
He does. 5 phases, ready, defining purpose, outcome visioning, brainstorming.
Okay, getting all free-flowy.
Then organizing, and then identifying those next actions. And the best part, it's kind of intuitive once you break it down.
Right, break it down for me. Let's use that dream vacation example from earlier. Get granular.
Perfect. So, phase 1, defining purpose. Why this trip? Why now? What are you hoping to get out of it? Relaxing beach bum, exploring a new city. What's the vibe?
Okay, so we're crystal clear on the WHY before we even look at Airbnbs.
Exactly. Then you envision the ideal outcome. What would make this trip a smashing success?
I'm sensing a theme here. We're getting really clear on the what before diving into the how.
You got it. Then, the fun part, brainstorm. Let all the ideas flow, no judgment at this stage. Maybe it's a cooking class in Tuscany or...
Oh, scuba diving in Belize. Don't tempt me.
See, this is good stuff. Unfiltered brain dump of all things vacation-y.
Loving it. But then reality sets in, we got to make it happen.
And that's where the organizing comes in. After the brainstorm, you'll naturally see connections, right? Themes emerge, a loose structure.
And this is where we circle back to those next actions, yeah, like research flights to Rome or read reviews of Tuscan cooking classes, that kind of thing.
Look, bingo. You start big picture, then break it down into those doable steps. And the best part is, this natural planning, it works for anything. Family reunion, organizing your sock drawer.
You know, this is making me realize so much of this GTD stuff is about perspective. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the huge thing, we break it down, trust our brains to work through it, not against us.
It's like that aha moment when you realize you have the tools, you just got to use them right, Work smarter, not harder.
Okay, loving all of this so far, but gotta confess, I'm the queen of starting systems with great intentions then.
Aha, I've been there.
How do we make sure all this capturing, processing, planning, actually doing doesn't just become another to-do list item itself?
Right.
You know, it's funny. I always thought getting things done was about, doing more things.
More, faster, better.
Right, but this feels different. It's more about thinking differently. Would you say that's fair?
It's totally a mindset shift. Alan talks about moving from, reactive to proactive.
Oh, I like that.
Instead of constantly putting out fires, we can actually, design our days, design our work.
Become the architects of our own productivity.
Exactly.
I see how that would, bleed over into every area, Feeling more in control at work, less like your inbox is your evil overlord. But here's the thing. Even with the best systems in place, there's always more we could be doing. How do we deal with that? That nagging feeling of, wait, should I be doing that too?
Oh, such a good question. And the thing is, Alan, he's not advocating for doing it all.
Thank goodness.
Right. It's more about choosing what not to do, and that's incredibly freeing. That's where that whole someday maybe list comes in.
Okay, full disclosure, someday maybe lists, they're my jam.
In theory.
The best of intentions.
Exactly. But they often become these idea graveyards. How do we keep them alive but not, overwhelming?
Same as our action lists. It's all about that regular review.
Makes sense.
But instead of looking for the next task, it's more about, rekindling the excitement. Does this someday thing still light you up, or is it time to let it go? It's like we're checking in with our future selves, right? Hey, future me, remember that pottery class? Still yes.
Exactly. And if not, guilt-free delete, move on with your life.
I love that. Okay, this has been amazing, really eye-opening stuff.
It's powerful stuff.
It is. And for anyone listening thinking, all right, I'm ready to tackle my own stuff, what's something they can take action on right now?
Well, remember how we talked about the importance of capturing everything? Don't wait. grabbing your notebook, open your notes app, whatever your thing is, and just start jotting down everything that's on your mind. It doesn't have to be organized or pretty. Just get it out of your head. And then, maybe pour yourself a celebratory beverage because you're on your way to a calmer, more in control you.
Love it. A toast to less stuff and more of what matters. Cheers to that. And thank you for diving deep with us today. This GTD wisdom, it's a game changer.
My pleasure. Always happy to geek out about productivity. Until next time, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to dive into more book insights and key learnings, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Mini Books Podcast, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We're back every Sunday at 9 a.m. with new books and more to learn from. Until next time, take care, keep learning, and keep growing. Remember, this is Mini Books Podcast.